Okay, we are set up for 5 gallons now. So when you're running the 5 gallons, obviously we had to do the adjustments again with the cylinders and put them all in their 5-gallon spots respectfully. But also when you're running the 5s, obviously we have to align them with the handle. So when you're placing the 5-gallon containers in there, you're going to be putting the handle into the guide, and the guide will keep them aligned with the nozzles so we can fill properly. So we're going to have to run these 5, and you'll see how they run down the line. So you're just going to pull the E-stop out, and they'll be running. You can also notice that when the cans come on the tables, they're going to both pair off and start from 0. We're obviously not getting a full 5 gallons in there. Right now we're putting about 20 some odd pounds just for testing purposes. You can get a good idea how the machine works. You also see that it fills a lot faster because we're using a larger nozzle size. Little overview here. Now, when you guys get the machine, you're going to have obviously electrical connections you're going to have to deal with. You have your leads coming in for the 2 conveyor motors, in feed and discharge, or entrance and exit as we want to call them. But those are both set up as 110 volt. It's just a little 1/4 horsepower motor, so that's not going to be sucking too much amperage on you. So you got them guys, and down here at the bottom of your set point controllers, you also have 110 volts coming in. We just simply have them, cable tied for now to be for testing, but your connections are going to be right there on the left side of this first one. And again, that's 110 volt, and on the right side of the second one, 110 volt grounded. And you also have your power supplies for the indicators, which are on the end of the machine. And again, those are 110 volts. So everything's the same. Now, when your electrician is going to be wiring these, what you don't want to do is come in with one source of 110 volts to run the motors and the indicators. So do not do that. You want to use a separate system for each setup. So what I mean by that is the indicators. You can tie these two for one 110 volt source for the power supplies, and you can tie these, your set point control 110 volt, all on the same 110 volt source. The amperage is very minimal, but don't put a motor on the same line as what you're feeding these. So these guys should be going to their own independent 110 volt breaker, separate from the motors. Keep that in mind, because these are computers and they do not like voltage drop. So if that motor is turning on and off, you could hurt the indicators. So that's pretty much it on the electric connections. Your pneumatic connection for the filter regulator lubricator is right here on the back of the machine. And you're going to want to use a minimum 3/8 inch air line, and the machine runs at 80 psi. So those are, again, we talked about the nozzles, those are the larger nozzles. These are 1.5 inch outside diameter compared to your smaller nozzles, which I believe are 5/8 OD. One other thing I want to point out to you, being explosion proof, we're using pneumatic sensors to pick up and sense the containers as they're coming in. So that's actually low pressure air shooting out of these sensors. You can probably hear it in the video there, but it's a low pressure supply, and that low pressure you should never really exceed for this system any more than, say, about 13 psi. We got it cranked up there pretty good because we want to sense those cans at a pretty good distance. If you went too high, you can actually blow the discs in these amplifiers, because these are what turns up the low pressure to 80 psi so the system can run it and read it. But again, that was it for running the 5s. Just give you a little overview and a little preparation here for when you get in the machine.